Is Texas Tech's best offseason move revolving around NIL, or is it something else?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To this crossover of Locked On the Portal and Locked On Red Raiders, we're going to be talking about everything going on with Texas Tech's program in this incredible season that they've had, because quite honestly, a playoff run is not what you expect to talk about with Tech, and it's completely flipped. Hats off to the Red Raiders. So winning the Big 12, making a playoff run, we're going to get to that later on in the show. We're going to talk about the team chemistry, all the NIL they've spent. There have been other teams, like Florida State last year, where the NIL money caused problems in the locker room. Why hasn't that been a problem at Tech when they've got a billionaire booster fundraising this great roster? We're going to get into that. And to begin the show, the best offseason move for the Red Raiders. Man, there's a lot of them you can pick from. And it's not all roster opportunities to talk about. To help me figure out all of that and more, this guy right here knows a thing or two about Tech. He's been around the program for a couple of days now. Chris Lovell, Locked On Texas Tech. Chris, thank you very much for joining the show. Truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. You bet. Yeah, it's funny, Brian, because I mean, you and I were talking about what they had done in this with this portal stuff and all that back in the summertime, and your class is ranked this. There's this expectation, and nobody knew anything. You didn't know, and now you kind of do, and not sure if I thought it would it's all going to go this well, because it's probably been honestly a bit better than I would have thought, and it's been an impressive year to this point.
It really has. And like the chemistry is something we'll get to in segment 2. I'm fascinated by that because that's something you can't put a price tag on and you can't get a numeric value. But I think it's safe. It's pretty high there. You've got a team that borderline almost, they should probably be undefeated. The Arizona State game is kind of goofy, but they still have one blemish coming off last season. They're doing the right thing. So to that end, to help them get to this point, question number 1 for you, brother. What is the most important offseason move they made in any manner you want to talk about? Roster, coaches, back office, or anything else? What do you got?
Yeah, it's a fair question, because how we've gotten here is because they are aligned. So this whole process started, 14 months ago. Okay, the decision way before the previous football season had ended. There's an opportunity. We need to get our ducks in a row. We need to get together. We need to figure out how to attack this. And so this is September, October of 2024. And then you have people trying to hire your folks away. You made a move with your defensive coordinator, and like, we've got to be a bit better here. You lost your offensive coordinator. You had multiple folks trying to hire your general manager, but James Blanchard, because USC multiple times, Notre Dame multiple times has tried to hire him. He wants to see this through, and you're not there yet, but you're really close on achieving one of their stated goals. But so it's an alignment. The president, multiple boosters. There are 4 to 6 guys that heavily contributed. Cody Campbell gets a lot of the publicity, but he would be the first one to tell you. There's a variety of other folks that are contributing to this, and not just football, but basketball, softball, all these other things. But so it's the alignment that they agreed to and realized that they needed. But if we're talking personnel, I mean, I really want to say like an unheralded member of this portal class, because he almost allows everybody to do what they do, is Lee Hunter, who's known as the Fridge. And as I've often said, the Fridge feeds everybody, because you have a Heisman Trophy potential candidate, a Butkus Award winner, first-team All-American type linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, who is allowed to go move freely about the cabin and do his thing, because Lee Hunter's in front of him. You anytime that these edge rushers, Romello Height and David Bailey, do their thing, they force quarterbacks to step up into the pocket, and it's right into Lee Hunter. Or so I think Lee, it doesn't show up in the box score. It's kind of this position that is played that is just kind of sucking up blockers. He's really good at it. But if you force me to say anything, just because he's an absolute freak, it's probably one of the last guys they added to this whole portal class, and that's David Bailey. This guy's going to be a top 10 or 15 player picked in the draft. I mean, he's not perfect. I think he's much better against the run than everybody thought, but like his first step is just –
yeah, it's good, man.
It's impressive.
Your point about Lee Hunter, I got a backstory on that. I covered UCF for a while. When I first met Lee, I didn't see him. He was over to my side, and he said something. It was after a press conference or something. I saw him, and he kind of walking over to him like, holy moly. Just to see how big he is, like the barrel chest. And he's the nicest guy. Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah.
It looks like he could swallow somebody whole, and he can move.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
a great personality. And they brought in a young man by the name of Skylar Gill Howard from Northern Illinois, and he was playing really well. He had an unfortunate injury happen about, I think, the 5th game of the season, and Skylar was lost for the year. They're hopeful if they can go a ways in the playoffs and they get him back. But Skylar was the emotional. He earned everybody's respect really quick, which is hard to do. Respect of your peers. And like when you're the new guy, like, can I lead? Can I speak up? Can I hold somebody accountable when they've been here for 3 or 4 years? But Lee, really midway through the season, he started to take on that because Skylar was unable to play. And I think that was fun for everybody to watch because, as Joey McGuire would say, when Lee Hunter speaks up to you, I would suggest you listen. and guys did.
Well, on that note, like I remember Gus Malzahn told me, he goes, we recruited Lee since he was in 8th grade.
Yeah.
He was at Auburn at the time when they first started. I mean, come on, so everybody knew he was going to be a guy, but
yeah,
if you don't double Lee, it's bad business for the interior run game for your team. And you simply cannot have 340-pound men hitting your quarterback. It just cannot happen. So,
and when you double him,
it opens up everything.
That's the point, because it's allowing these guys to be the best version of themselves. And, and it's worth mentioning, you mentioned Gus Malzahn. Lee would have never left UCF. This isn't some hired gun, this guy that was looking to get out. No, he was never going to leave. But once his coach left,
that's the way it works, brother.
Exactly. And it's like, man, and so but he's one of my favorite people, always smiling, except for in between those white lines. And I just think he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink that allows all these guys to do their thing.
To that end, we're going to talk about Texas Tech's team chemistry. We've talked about the NIL. Texas Tech has spent the money, Lee Hunter included. Why is it so good at Tech? Is there a formula? Is Joey McGuire some kind of magician? Because there are a lot of teams that would love to figure it out. That is next here on this crossover, Locked On Texas Tech and Locked On the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA's back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you're like me and you're a Pacers fan, it's been a little disappointing because the Pacers are terrible. But even though they're the only team in the NBA, as I get ready to go through this podcast, without a road victory, they do play Cleveland coming up on a road game. Maybe they will finally get a road win. Pacers, as of this day we're doing this, have 2 wins, but there's another opportunity. Maybe that's a statistical anomaly that will go away with their next game at Cleveland. So even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast and Locked On Texas Tech a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 network in the land. Chris Level joining me here. Let's try to dissect this as possibly we can. Is there really some kind of elixir with how they've spent all this money and guys aren't pointing fingers in the locker room where at other schools they do? Just straightforward. Why is it different at Tech? Because they spend a bunch. I saw it destroy Florida State.
Yeah, and that's really been the norm, as opposed to, I think Tech has been kind of the exception on some of the,
Right.
and I think Texas Tech's not the only school that spent a lot of money on doing this. Right. I mean, I think that it's just they've told their story, so it's well known, and it's become kind of the thing. And I've been asked, hey. Everybody's going to try to copy you, aren't don't you think? And these teams, you're just beating the heck out of some of these teams, and it's probably going to be tougher for Texas Tech to reload and get the same kind of players, because everybody's going to want to start doing this after they've seen the example. And I certainly understand that. There is a process with which they have put this class together. There is some internal resources. There's some external resources. And I'm not talking finances at all. I'm talking about the way you grade players, the way that they fit into your scheme, your character questions, and all that stuff. So, and that's available for folks. And you can look at an NFL draft list, you can look at a PFF, and everything in between. Okay, but Texas Tech's secret sauce is their head coach, because he is he's a vibe, is the way I like to describe him. I host this coaches show. It is one of my favorite hours each week during the football season, win or lose on what you've done the week before. He is just a positive, energetic, optimistic, transparent guy that is one of the most genuine, wholesome people you'd ever want to be around. And I think that and they had some things that they did trying to mesh this together. And, like he has people over at his house. And a lot of times it's like, okay, we'll have the O-line over this week. I'll have the defensive line next week. I'll have the tight ends and the receivers the week after. They bring people from each position group to their house each week. He made the quarterbacks take a different position group to breakfast at a different breakfast place all throughout the summer. Like it was like an every Tuesday or Thursday thing. So this was just steady. It's little stuff like that. But the whole thing, it's all about Joey. It just is. And some of these guys that have come in that have played at either a group of 5 level or a power 4 level or whatever, they are saying things like, I've never played for a coach like this ever. And he's genuinely made them care about each other in a rather quick fashion, and that's hard to do. The previous high school background that he had, when you're losing, entire grades, it's a bit different than college, right? But I think he was used to the constant, churn of a roster, and the trick is, how do we speed it up? Our race is against the clock, and how do we get them to care about each other? And because he knew in January 1 last year, he knew that Baron Morton and Jacob Rodriguez and himself, their biggest challenges were taking all these pieces that everybody read about, and how do we do it? That it's not anything football related. And Jacob and Baron are good players. That's the quarterback, the starting Sam linebacker that is going to win a bunch of awards. But he already knew that. This is our biggest task for the next 9 months. These guys are football players. They're going to be really good ones. We already know this. We know what we have brought in here, but can we get them to care about each other? And it's been pretty fascinating to watch. But not everybody – you can go copy the evaluation. You could go copy the offer list. You could match the money. But what you can't – what most will have a hard time doing, and I think Kurt Cignetti's done very similar. There's an identity there. There's a vibe there. There's a confidence and a swagger in Indiana, and I think Joey's just done a phenomenal job, and probably hadn't gotten enough credit for it, Brian, on getting everybody to care about each other, because they haven't been in a close win yet. The only loss they had was a game they won, or that they were winning by with 2 minutes to go. They've just blown everybody out, and yet they're as hungry as you've ever seen.
That part right there was something I was going to ask about, so I'll just lean into that now. They have a killer mentality, which you need to have. I don't think the Big 12 is a great league by any means, but like, you kill what's in front of you, that's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
They kill it. Do you think that's predicated from Joey, or is it some of the players? Is it a combination? Like, where did that come from? Because like you said, they put the hammer down.
I think Joey has done a good job of explaining some of these outside pieces that are now a part of this program now and in this city. That's part of the background that they've gotten. Here's why you all are here. We've never been here before. This is a challenge that this university deserves, this city deserves, this fan base, all that. And so I think that because they didn't go. I mean, Lee Hunter, who we talked about earlier, he was a bit of an exception on a Power 4 edition. A lot of this is Group of 5. A lot of these kids are telling me, because I'm part of the radio broadcast, it's like I'm asking them as the weeks go on, hey, man, did you like the home crowd? Yeah, Mr. Chris, that's the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of. So it's not like some of these guys, they haven't seen the big stage yet. And so you're kind of wondering how it's all going to work. And yet I think they've all embraced it. And part of them will tell you, this is why I came here, because I wanted to play in big games. College game days showing up to my campus. Are you kidding me? Holy cow. I mean, this is what – but so there's this collective hunger, and I think Joey's really tapped into that. But these were not like made men, if that makes sense. These were guys – and even Blanche, James Blanchard will tell you, one of the fascinating things he does as part of the evaluation process, in some cases, he looks for the best players on a bad team, because it tells him it's not going well. They have every reason to shut it down. But guys that stick out on bad teams, there's something to them. And if we can surround them by the right group and surround them with the right culture, look out. And so it's just it's all been pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I agree that there's always a diamond in the rough if you really look. You got to be smart about it, but they have really picked it apart. Speaking of which, when we come back, looks like y'all are going to win the Big 12, barring something unforeseen. What would it mean for the city of Lubbock? What would it mean for Texas Tech if they win it and go to the playoff? That is next here on this Locked On Crossover. All right. Looks like I would say it's pretty unlikely you're not going to make the playoff. And I would say it's also pretty unlikely you don't win the Big 12. But for whatever reason, BYU didn't play that great that day, but you guys beat them pretty good. Utah, I think, which is ironic, they lost to BYU, is the better team, but they lost that day. You're not going to have to play them again probably. So if that happens, what does it mean for the city, first off? Like Lubbock, a lot of people couldn't point it out on the map if they lived in Texas, let alone people outside. I know where it's at, but I'm a college football nut. Most people don't. Like, what would it mean for the city of Lubbock?
Yeah, Brian, I think the most recent best season for Texas Tech was back in 2008. That's the Graham Harrell, Michael Crabtree. They beat Texas, all that stuff. They were legit that year, bottom line. They were top 5 in the country. Mike Leach was here. They're throwing the ball all over the place and all those things. But you went 11-2 that year, and yet there's a lot of memories from that year. But one of the things, unfortunately, is because of the way the BCS was at the time and everything like that, there was no playoff and all that. There was really, you didn't win anything. There's nothing other than beating Texas and the Harold the Crabtree catch and those moments. You couldn't hang any banner up or anything. There's nothing to show for it. You didn't even win the Big 12 South. Couldn't play in the title game. Couldn't, that. So this would mean a lot. This was everybody's. I tried to say it this way in the things that I did, because I've been covering this thing a long, long time. I felt like a realistic goal, and it was a failure on what you had done and tried to put together if you don't at least make it to Arlington. I wasn't saying you have to get to Arlington and win it. Okay, this is way back in the summer. Like, you've got to get to Arlington or this just has not worked. And you've really tried. Now, I mean, you're going to fire everybody. I think we're going to, okay, let's take a look at it. Let's try again. We're just going to keep swinging. You still, as you and I sit here and talk, you still haven't clinched a spot in Arlington yet. You're close. You are so close. If you beat West Virginia, you're in. There are some scenarios where you could even lose against West Virginia in the regular season and still make it in. But Joey has always stated, James Blanchard has always stated, it's about winning the Big 12 championship. That's our goal. And we know if we do that, other things will be waiting on us and we can go play ball on a much bigger stage. But he desperately, because Brian, I think I even mentioned this to you last summer, they were one win away last year from earning a trip there. They had beaten both teams, Arizona State and Iowa State, that played for the Big 12 championship last year. They had wins over both of them. And yet, if you win one of those games that puts you into Arlington last year, I wonder if we're having the same conversation. I wonder if the motivation would have been the same. I wonder if you would have said, we're tired of this, screw it, let's really get serious about this and try to put together a juggernaut. I don't know the answer to that, but it is worth asking aloud. But it would mean a whole lot around here to individuals. I think you'd see grown men shed a tear because you just haven't. This hasn't really been the sandbox you've been playing in. Some people are used to it. This is new, and the trick is going to be how do you stay here once you get to this point? But you're not quite there yet.
Well, that's kind of my next question. You're good at this. What's the best way for Tech to win games? BYU in the Big 12 championship and then on. Like, how should they approach teams that have similar talent or maybe even more? Like if they play Georgia or something like that. What's their strength to win big time games?
Well, I think that how might you sustain this level of play for years to come is the same way I'm going to answer how they may try to play a Notre Dame or a Georgia or an Oregon or whatever it may be. They will try to turn that defensive line loose. They are going to invest heavily and continue to invest heavily in the defensive line. That is the strength of your entire football team. It allows the linebackers to do their thing. They're, I think, either one or two in the country as far as rushing defense. I mean, you're, I think, 8th or 9th in total defense. Last year, they were in the 120s.
They're 8th in total. They're number 1 in run. They're 35th in pass, but consider the quarterbacks in the Big 12. So
yeah, and that's partly why they put together what they did. They have not seen a lot of bad quarterback play at all.
That week,
it is wild.
It's every quarterback's good in that freaking.
Yeah, draft picks or experience, and they didn't even see Sawyer Robertson or Josh Hoover, or anything like that. But that's partly why they wanted to try to negate what the league was about to not going to see Brendan Sorsby or anything like that. So you missed a bunch of good ones too. But it's the front seven on defense that I think allows them to play against anybody out there. They may be an underdog against some of those teams, but they've also, for the most part, been able to run the ball really well. Okay. And that's Joey. That's Joey going back to his roots. It's like play defense, run the ball, the end. And it against Arizona State this year weren't able to run it as well as you'd hoped. And that's another thing. A key part of this recruiting class, portal class, I should say, was Quentin Joyner from USC.
That's right. Good running back.
He was thought to be one of the top running back portal additions that anybody had. He hadn't played a game all year because he hurt himself in early August. And now you've got the leading rusher in the Big 12 and Cam Dickey, one of the most explosive players in the conference, and Jacoby Williams. I think he's like 8th or 9th in all-purpose yards in the country is Jacoby Williams. You will add Quentin Joyner to these two guys for next year. Your backfield ought to be loaded next year because now they've got all this experience and things like that. So, yeah, running it and stopping the run to answer the question, and you will be able to rush the passer.
Those are some pretty good points. If you're attacking Texas Tech, what is the best way to get after them?
Well, if you can, because Baron Morton's been dealing with a bit of an injury right now. If you can get after him a little bit, cloud the picture, force them. I think when Baron has struggled some, it's because of the coverage type sacks, and he's not the most mobile right now because he's dealing with a lower leg injury, and I think that the bye week, which is they're in the midst of right now, has been helpful. After the Big 12 title game, if they make it to that point, that the gap in between those would be very helpful for him. But I think when he's got to scramble around and extend plays, I think that's not good, or it hasn't been. Because I think BYU was really good early in that game of there's just nobody open, and he kind of scrambles around and you give up some 14-yard losses. But he's avoided the turnovers, large in part. But I think anybody that's got the ability to cover these big outside receivers has given Texas Tech problems. Arizona State was very physical with you, kind of tried to bully you a little bit. They were motivated because you'd beaten them the year before and all those things, and they arguably played their best game of the season. So anybody that's got something like that, I think that could be a bit of a problem for Texas Tech.
Yeah, teams that can play straight up man defense.
Yes.
There's about 4 of those.
Yeah, and Utah tried it. That's what, because Utah was one of the best defenses I think
they're well coached now.
They are Morgan Scalley, and I mean there's no doubt they with him as DC, I think I remember the stat right, but like leading into the game, they've only given up like 14.5 points a game at home over the 4 to 5 years he's been there, and you roll in there and put up 34 with a backup quarterback in the second half, and you're attacking this man-to-man defense, and you're winning matchups. And anyway, it was pretty fascinating because that's what they do at Utah. Like, here's how we're playing it, man. We're really good at it, but you kind of beat them at what they do. But you're right, there's not many out there that are really, really good at it that can just shut you down.
Last question, I'll get you out of here on this, Chris. Obviously, this year's a success. I think that's fairly safe assumption. What is long-term success like now for Tech? Like, should Tech, I mean, how do you set expectations, if you will? Like, after this, is that even fair? Because it's been such a jump.
Yeah. I think that the people in charge would tell you, because they're recruiting now. What's been interesting is that because of what they're doing, they have one of the top quarterbacks in the country committed in Kavion Bryant. They have one of the top interior defensive linemen committed to him in Jalen Brewster. LaDamian Guyton out of Georgia is one of the top edge players. Felix Ojo, one of the top offensive tackles. So they're really almost kind of are trying to tap into these 5-star, high school players. And most of these guys are trench or the trench players. So if they continue to do that, they'll be just fine. But to answer your question, if they're contending for a Big 12 championship every year, this is a great job. And nobody's going to get frustrated, I don't think, or it may take many, many years for everybody to go, you mean you didn't win the Big 12? God, what a joke. I mean, that's just not where this thing is at right now. But if you're contending for it and, winning it every 2 to 3 years, if you continue to pour resources in, I mean, the statue being worked on and everything. I mean, and there's no doubt. And that's what makes this a fun gig.
Absolutely. Chris, I really enjoyed it, man. A lot of insightful information. Tech is, as a guy that covers the portal, is obviously a part of my routine almost every week. So learning more about them has been very helpful for me. Please tell everybody where you can get your work for you guys over at Locked On Texas Tech.
Yeah, Locked On Texas Tech, me and Casey Cowan. He's a longtime radio guy, and we've been buddies for years, and we do this thing 5 days a week. I'm on RedRaidersports.com, which is part of the On3 network. I mean, anyway, but yeah, and I'm on the radio broadcast with Texas Tech as well. So anyway, but it's been a fun year. People are like, man, you have a great job. Well, yeah, it's a great job when you're winning. I've been through this many years when you're not, and it can be a miserable job at some points too. So I've certainly tried to enjoy it personally as well. But Brian, you were very kind to have me on, man, and we'll talk next time for sure.
Absolutely. You can find the Portal Podcast same place you can find Locked On Texas Tech. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, you name it. We'll talk to you again soon.